If you were making or watching videos online 15 or 20 years ago, you might remember how Vimeo used to be the sophisticated home for cinematic work, while YouTube was the place for low-resolution webcam clips. But today, YouTube has 2.7 billion monthly active viewers and is valued at $550 billion, while Vimeo gets only about 260 million and was recently sold for just $1.38 billion. So what happened to Vimeo? Vimeo actually launched in late 2004, several months before YouTube even existed. At the time, it was essentially a side project for Jake Lodwick and Josh Abramson, who were running College Humor and Busted Tees. Because they were managing these successful, self-funded businesses, they were extremely cautious about Vimeo's growth, fearing that hosting unfiltered user content would lead to a massive copyright lawsuit from big media companies that could sink their entire company. This caution ended up defining the trajectory of the platform for years, as the founders implemented strict rules on video size and length to keep people from uploading copyrighted material like TV shows or movies. While Vimeo was playing it safe and focusing on being a neat application for their internal projects, YouTube launched in 2005 with a much riskier philosophy, allowing almost anything to be uploaded with less friction. The difference between the two became undeniable in late 2005, when the Lazy Sunday SNL sketch went viral on YouTube. Vimeo's restrictions wouldn't allow that kind of content, and that single moment helped YouTube's traffic skyrocket past Vimeo almost overnight. In hindsight, the founders realized they had throttled Vimeo's potential because they were trying to protect their other businesses rather than raising independent capital to let Vimeo compete on its own. Despite falling behind in sheer numbers, Vimeo carved out a prestigious niche by becoming the first streaming site to allow high-definition uploads and playback. Around 2008, when the Canon 5D Mark II started the DSLR filmmaking revolution, Vimeo became the natural home for those creators because it offered HD resolution at a time when YouTube was still struggling with barely average standard definition. Filmmakers loved the platform because it was ad-free and didn't have the haters that were starting to populate YouTube comment sections, making it feel like a safe haven where you could upload a cinematic masterpiece and hope to earn a staff pick badge. This curated playlist was incredibly influential, as being featured could put a filmmaker's work in front of Hollywood executives and commercial agencies, genuinely jump-starting careers overnight. They even fostered this community through events like The Story Behind the Still, a massive collaborative contest where filmmakers would pick up the story from the last frame of a previous episode, eventually leading to a full film that screened at the Sundance Film Festival. It was a time when being a Vimeo filmmaker meant something specific about your aesthetic and technical skill, and I'll talk about how that very identity became a liability as the company's business model shifted. But first, if you're finding the story interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video so we can keep making more like this one. As the internet moved into the 2010s, the technical advantages that made Vimeo special began to erode as YouTube, which was backed by Google's massive infrastructure, eventually enabled HD and 4K playback. Because YouTube was part of the Google ecosystem, they had thousands of data centers that could stream high-quality video reliably, whereas Vimeo had to rent its infrastructure and often struggled with buffering or freezing when trying to play back high bitrate 4K files. By 2013, while YouTube was reaching 1 billion unique viewers a month, Vimeo's growth stayed much more modest at about 60 million, which made it look less attractive to the investors and markets that demand perpetual growth. This pressure to grow led to a massive shift in 2017, when Anjali Sood took over as CEO and decided to pivot the company away from being a viewing destination for indie filmmakers. She realized that there wasn't enough money in being an artistic version of YouTube, so she rebranded Vimeo as a software-as-a-service company for businesses. Instead of focusing on the community of creators, they started building tools for corporate webinars, video editing, and hosting for brands. For the filmmakers who had built the site, this felt like being abandoned, especially as the platform's user interface began to change constantly, making it harder to find basic tools like privacy settings, which were suddenly buried under menus named Share. The relationship with its original core audience really started to sour when Vimeo became much stricter about copyright enforcement, because they lacked the sophisticated Content ID system that Google built for YouTube. Vimeo's approach was much blunter, and around 2017 they began using software to scan every single video ever uploaded, including private or unlisted ones from a decade prior. Many longtime users who had uploaded wedding films or personal projects using copyrighted music back in 2007, long before the industry had easy licensing tools, woke up to find their entire accounts deleted without warning because the system gave them multiple strikes all at once for their old archive. It felt like a cold corporate decision that showed zero compassion for the loyal users who had spent 10 years sharing their work on the site. At the same time, the economics of the platform became increasingly difficult for independent creators as Vimeo started to strictly limit storage and bandwidth. Unlike YouTube, where you can upload as much as you want for free, Vimeo started requiring creators to pay significantly more if their videos became successful or used a lot of data. One famous example involved a digital artist named Lois Van Barley, who was told her $200 annual subscription was unsustainable and that she would need to pay $3,500 a year because her bandwidth usage put her in the top 1% of users, even though her videos weren't even getting massive view counts. This kind of pricing pressure, combined with a recent 25% jump in the cost of a pro account, has made it hard for many filmmakers to justify staying, especially when they average only a few sales a month on Vimeo on demand. The platform has also gutted many of the features that once made it feel like a community, particularly for users in the EU and UK. Rather than doing the work to adapt their features to GDPR regulations, Vimeo simply removed site-wide search channels groups and curated collections in those regions, meaning if you don't have a direct link to a video, it is almost impossible to find. They also discontinued their smart TV apps in 2023, so if you're a filmmaker trying to show a client a draft or a wedding couple trying to watch their film on a big screen, the experience has become significantly more complicated and clunky. The story has now entered a much more volatile chapter following Vimeo's acquisition by the tech holding company Bending Spoons. In November 2025, the company was bought for approximately $1.38 billion and taken private, a move that some hoped might shield it from public shareholder demands. However, the history of Bending Spoons has left many creators and employees worried, as the firm has a reputation for acquiring much-loved apps like Filmic Pro, Evernote, and WeTransfer, only to immediately lay off original development teams and jack up subscription costs. When they bought WeTransfer, for instance, they reportedly laid off 75% of the staff shortly after the purchase. These fears are being realized fairly quickly as Vimeo has already begun a new round of global layoffs this year, following a 10% reduction of its full-time workforce in September 2024, aimed at increasing focus and efficiency. Bending Spoons has been aggressive in its acquisitions, even announcing a $1.5 billion deal for AOL around the same time they were integrating Vimeo, which they supported by raising $4 billion in debt financing. For many creators, the Vimeo they loved, the one that stood for high-quality art and a supportive community, has been gone for a long time, replaced by a corporate tool that seems more interested in restructuring and cost-cutting than in fostering creativity. If you have old memories of Vimeo staff picks or thoughts on the whole saga, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe before you leave.